On today's episode of the Iron and Infrastructure podcast, we have a special guest, Jeremy Trager. For a little bit of background information, Jeremy Trager was the best man at my wedding. He is my big brother. And if you haven't thought about this yet, get out a pen and paper because you're going to want to take notes because this is going to be a great episode. So first off, Jeremy, thanks for coming. I'm not going to call you Jeremy. I'm going to call you Trager because that's what I always call you.
Yep.
So let's start at the beginning. Talk about childhood, growing up, just kind of where you grew up at, school, activities, sports, all the good stuff.
Grew up Lincoln County. Went to multiple schools around Lincoln County. Not by choice, just got pushed into that. Grew up with stepdad, mom, dad, and stepmom. Bounced back and forth through them because I was kind of a fuck off.
A little bit.
Always had a chip on my shoulder.
Yep.
Don't know where it came from. Yeah, so I got bounced around from schools, kicked out of most of them, but I finally settled into Newark. Started playing. I think I was involved in sports all the way through.
Yeah.
Played baseball, which was my favorite. I did a little bit of golf. Had a temper, threw a club, got kicked off that team. Football. But I think it was pretty much into everything I could get in, just to stay busy. But, yeah. I think I did most of, staying busy to stay away from
Chaos.
Yeah.
When did, what age did you start lifting?
I would have to say probably 7th or 8th grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not
So
knowing
young.
shit.
Yeah.
I had an older stepbrother who was a stud, and he basically told me, if you're going to do anything, you have to
Get
lift.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that was a person kind of pushed into that.
Yeah, Nathan.
Yeah.
He did.
I don't even think I knew that actually.
Oh, I'm surprised we didn't. I'm sure we talked
We
about
probably,
it.
probably forget. But so 7th and 8th grade, and then did you live through high school and all that, or just play the sports, or was there even like a rural strength training program with the?
For the high school, there was.
Yeah.
For Newark
Yeah.
high school football
Yeah.
team, we had, but it was kind of back then. It was just
3 sets of 12.
heavy as you can go,
Yeah.
blow your back out kind of
Yeah.
shit. And then if you couldn't get it, then just get screamed at
Yeah.
until you failed. I guess.
Yeah. And, science has produced a lot of good athletes in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
however long it's been,
it
so.
did. Yeah, it was always a guy with a big belly, that would tell you what to do, and
Yeah.
it was shit back then
Yeah.
compared to what we have now. What
Right.
We know
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. The training evolution is just insane anymore. I know seeing what Corey's done with a lot of high school athletes. I mean, he's taken guys that had serious strength deficiencies and were talented as hell, but weak, and then 6 months to a year later,
He basically went against everybody's.
oh yeah,
What the standard
Yeah.
was. He just flipped it on its
yeah.
back.
The accommodating resistance for strength athletes, the bands, front squat variations, and everything that he's put in has really helped a lot
shit
of
that
people.
used to be called a sissy for.
Yeah.
Now that trains top level
Right.
athletes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So evolution of fitness in general, but really the athletic developments came a long way. So right after high school, what'd you do after that? No college?
I went. So I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have never went, but I went to Ohio State. I always wanted to be a cop, so I went for that.
Figure you ran from enough, might as well be one, right?
Yeah, I know all the rules now, what not to do. So I went for a little bit. I didn't do too well, and basically dropped out. Had a girlfriend. Ended up, she got pregnant, so I basically need to get a job to support that. So I started just working all sorts of jobs. Good work ethic, though. I had great work ethic. I just couldn't focus it on one thing. So I was like a bartender. Did landscaping. I did a little bit of everything.
The repo, I remember repo.
Yeah, repo.
Yeah.
My brother had like this small repo business. That was great. It was $50 a car.
Yeah.
So you'd go in the hood of Columbus.
You're just going and taking everybody's ride.
Yeah, it was great. Loved it.
Yeah. When did you start at R&R Pipeline?
Oh shit! So I've been at Columbia for 10 years. And I was at R&R for 9. So if you do math, I don't know what it is, but I can't remember the year I started.
It probably been like 2004 or 5.
It was early, yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
So
So I
probably-
graduated in 2000, so I fucked off for a little bit, and then maybe I came there. And they didn't want to hire me because I came in like you were supposed to back then. I had a tie on, khakis. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was a pipeline company, and they're like, "I think this guy's overqualified."
Yeah.
You know, one of those dudes.
That's funny. Yeah, I started working in the shop in 2005, like part time.
I think I was
so
there.
I
when
think you came in
around.
because that's when Jeremy Casey and all the boys from West Virginia were still there.
Yeah.
And then I think by the time I started 2007 full time, they were leaving or getting ready on their way out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was probably that time frame. So that's how we met. Was R&R Pipeline. It's wild that I was 18 and you were. How old are you now?
I'm 42 now.
So you're 8 years. So you're 26 or 27 range when you started there. Does that sound right? Probably.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember, but I don't. I remember all the fine points.
Yeah.
Just not that.
Yeah. So started there as a laborer, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So I started on the waterline crew. Just soaping the pipe, sticking them together, running wire, ditch line shit.
Yeah.
You know.
So pretty much grunt work.
Grunt work,
where
yeah.
everyone starts. Yeah.
So
and
that's,
then
so go ahead.
how long did it take before you got on a bore machine?
So we needed a creek crossing bore, and Jerem came out, and I was always interested in about anything. I just wanted more notches in my belt.
Yeah.
So I was walking with him, and he was talking about it, and he's like, "What do you think this should be?" And I told him because I could figure out grade, and I was good with numbers. So as long as you can compute fast and know grade, and know up and down, left and right, that kind of shit. So I would tell him, and he's like, "You're the fastest one I've seen pick this up." You know, there's been a lot of guys try. And then right after that, he must have went in the office and said, "Get him on bores."
Yeah.
And then,
Well, and you're a fiery ginger that like to fight and drink a lot of beer, so that probably helped too.
yeah, because Jeremy was the same
Yeah,
way.
exactly,
So
yeah.
it was like 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah.
So we both started drilling together, and it was just like, it was a good brotherhood right there.
Yeah. And them guys, I haven't talked to them for years, but every once in a while I'll reach out, and still, it's no different than it was. Yeah.
Yeah, same way.
Hell, I remember going to the old midget mansion and drinking beer, and I was probably like 16, 17.
Absolutely. Yeah, no other way with a bunch of West Virginians. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was. So went to the bore machine, and then you stayed on that for a while because you were a foreman for however long
Foreman for, I think it was like,
before you went into management, right?
yeah, I was foreman for, because that happened like almost overnight.
Yeah.
Because I just ended up being
Yeah, it
really
was
good at
fast.
it. Yeah. So I think I was foreman for maybe 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
and then management for 2.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Before I left,
that,
yeah.
So I don't even remember how we really met or our first run-ins. I don't know if you do or not, but
Oh, I do.
oh, okay. Let's hear it.
So we were working on something together, and I was just like, "Hey, man, I got a keg at my house. Want to come back and drink some beers?"
That's right. Yeah.
And I think you came. Was it to the apartment? Or
It was
my
a
brother's
Friday.
place?
It was a Friday morning at 5:00. You
5
got
a.m.
rained
'cause
out.
We got rained out.
You got rained out.
Absolutely.
And then you're like,
Fucking
"Hey,
horrible.
I got a cake for $50. Why don't you come grab it? Because I got to go out of town or whatever your brother did." So I remember going with the trash can, picking up this keg, throwing it back to the truck, and we tapped it at your place.
Yeah.
And then probably drank a chunk of it. That was a disaster of a night for me.
I think we got shit hammered by like 1 in the afternoon.
I was asleep by lunch
Yeah.
and then had to regain consciousness and start over again.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that did not work out in my favor. That was a bad
Well,
experience.
you were new to it, and I was kind of seasoned at the, the day drinking.
Yeah, that I forgot all about that. That's funny.
Yeah, that was etched. Yeah,
And then
that's
after
one
that,
thing
I think it was nonstop brotherhood after that.
Absolutely.
We went out of town together, Woodsfield area, Caldwell.
Yep.
You were there, and we both trained. Majority of the time, we always trained, even though we drank beer every night for a while.
Yeah, protein.
So we would stay up and build a beer castle, and then wake up early and train and sweat it out. And that was one thing about us in our industry. We were degenerates like majority of people in the industry, but we still got the iron, and we still wanted to at least have that mental relief.
We were
Majority of the time.
committed when nobody else was to what we wanted to be. And that was,
Now we would still follow the trends to some degree, in the early part of it, but then eventually we kind of phased that out also and kind of went our own way. talk about the difference when physically knowing our industry in general and knowing what people do on a day-to-day, and the Mountain Dew with the donuts and the Slim Jims and the cigarettes. We did it too. We both did it. I remember a White Monster and a breakfast pizza from the
absolutely
the gas station on the way to Athens, was common for us. We talk about at least taking care of your physical self a little bit and making sure that you're hydrated to some degree. Because we always had a jug of aminos with us,
that was big because the first company that came out with those was Extends, because we always called it Dick Juice, because it was like Extend.
Right,
So I think what it was is, like, when we traveled, everybody bought their groceries or their morning food and everything from a gas station. Nobody really planned meals or anything like that. And I remember you and I were just like, we don't want to look like these fuckers.
Yeah. Or feel like them, or act like them, or anything.
All they would do was work, drink, sleep, work, drink, sleep. Yeah. And we would train.
And complain about their life.
Yeah.
It was the mindset thing,
looking like dog shit and feeling like dog shit, but we could still run like circles around them because we were taking care of our fitness.
And we did, because we were both foremen and we evolved fast.
We did. Well, our mindset was way different.
Yes.
Because they didn't want to do anything. They just wanted to do the same thing, get a paycheck, blow it.
Yeah.
Paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. You didn't want to do
that.
Right. So I felt like that was our motivation to be bigger, faster, stronger, and better than what we're used to and what's in our that industry, because that was just the norm.
Right.
And we didn't want to be the norm.
And we did it, for probably 3 or 4 years on the same job sites. You were already a foreman, I was up and coming, and we would stay late frequently. We would put in extra time, not just to get paid, but to take that next step, right? We knew that.
Well, we were cleaning up everybody else's dog shit.
Exactly. And we also knew that there has to, if our input of our craft to get to the next level. So if we spend more time doing it, we have to accelerate our career path, right? Whether we were aware of that or not, I think it was just a natural thing for us to work harder. But the more time that you spend on something, the more likely you are to succeed at it.
Right.
So we just kept showing up. We kept spending extra time. And I remember nights, eventually like in Albany or outside of Athens, when we had that massive project, and you would help me at night, like going through the detail of the job, trying to plan out the next day, figuring out, some of the scenarios. And I think that was when our brotherhood really hit like peak, because I was a young foreman. I had just got in trouble. I had lost my license.
Yeah.
I was in all kind of trouble with that. A few months of getting through that, and then you were like that support system there for me. And you were there majority of that job, I think. I mean, there was hit and miss some when you were doing some other stuff. But
I would get pulled to other jobs, but yeah.
But for the most part, we were there, and we always stayed at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Room 101.
Yeah.
And we had a home there almost. I mean, we could have probably left our clothes there, and it would have never been any different.
6 days a week, bud.
But we had a schedule that started as a baseline of we're going to lift a couple days a week, to challenging each other to get it in again at night. And I remember there'd be nights, especially when you snored, and I threw the lampshade at you and the kitchen sink and everything else. Food. But I remember sitting there at night, and I was so tired, but I would not admit it. I was like falling asleep. I was barely conscious, and I was like, I'm not telling him. I'm too tired to even like tell him that I'm not tired, but I'm not going to bed till he does. Like, we challenge each other in a lot of different ways.
If I didn't want to go to the gym, you would kick my ass to go to the gym, and vice versa. Because we would work longer. Our work ethic was
superior.
Way different than 9.
It was 1%.
Yeah, it was way different.
Yeah. So we were staying in Athens, and I don't remember exactly how it happened, but we had met. You met Corey at the Arnold, I think, for the first time when he was at Muscle Farm. Me and you went. We were standing in line, and he came up and he's like, "Jake, what's up, dude?" I was like, "Yo, G, what's up?" He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Man, I was waiting in line to come see you." And he took us. Remember, after that, we went up top in the Muscle Farm booth and walked around the Arnold with him for a while. Yeah. I think that was the first time that you met him. And then we started the Busy Diet not long after that, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And ended up doing it for 3-4 months, whatever it ended up being. And the original busy diet was not the one that it is today. And it was god awful and difficult, to say the least.
Well, that was the turnaround point, because what we were doing, we thought we were doing it the right way, but we were still drinking, we were still doing all that shit, but we were still working out twice a day, but we weren't.
But then we cut the drinking out once the show commitment started for that 10 or 12 week period.
Yeah.
I don't remember drinking at all.
No, we didn't.
I don't think
I
it was
wanted
all,
to, but we didn't, because I didn't want to put that in front of you.
So I remember telling you, like, hey man, I'm going to do the show, because Corey talked me into doing it. I was like, hey, I'm going to do the show. And you're like, well, shit, I'll diet with you.
Yeah.
And you did. And looking back now, think about, whatever you did on the weekends, what little bit of weekend we had, is what it is. But you fully committed to going in on that just because I did.
Yeah, that was a brotherhood, man.
And it was. And I could have never done that show. It was hard enough to do, being in the environment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never been able to do that had I sat there and watched you eat pizza or go to the happy hour every night.
Yeah.
And I remember we started doing CrossFit at that same time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing CrossFit and diet's dialed in, and then we had to survive very cheap because we didn't have money, right? Or we didn't have much money, but we figured out how to save probably a good chunk of money or blow it on something else, because we were very, very strategic with our shopping. All right, we would go to Walmart. We would have, our days planned out. We would take stuff from the hotel. We would load up on that food. Like, it was very, very cheap. And I remember $60 a week is what I had to eat off of.
Yeah. And combined, we might have had 80. And I remember there was times where we didn't have anything left.
Right.
And you struggle, but we had enough for our diet to get us through.
Yeah.
But there was no other extra.
There was nothing. Yeah. So that was for me, it was probably my biggest confidence building turning point, because, my two biggest fears in the world have always been public speaking and having my shirt off in front of people. And like you acknowledged earlier, I have my shirt off every day now, just as a FU to the world. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. But that commitment was so much, it was a lifelong struggle for me dealing with that. And committing to doing that show terrified me. I remember the week going into it, shaking, like laying in bed shaking at night, like cold sweats thinking about it. And then, like, show day came, I'm terrified. I have to get up on stage in front of people, and I don't think I had to do any speaking of any sort, but I had to put on a routine with my shirt off in front of a few hundred people.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was terrifying, but it was the most rewarding, confidence building, like, stepping stone for me, because I overcame a huge fear at that point. Really, two of them, but it was kind of that catapult for, I don't ever want to do this again, because there was no reward for what I had to go through as far as a tangible reward, but, intangible was massive for sure. Confidence.
Yeah. I remember talking to you, like, who gives a fuck what these people think?
Right.
Yeah. They don't know what you've been through.
Right.
They're just going to judge you.
And I think it was rooted in deep from growing up, being made fun of or whatever. I don't know if that was
chunky monkey.
Yeah. Always. And I can't say that I really cared about what people thought, but people weren't wrong either. So I perceived myself as fat, and when I was called fat, it was really a recognition of me not taking care of myself. So I think that was a bigger thing for me, is it's not what people think, it's what I think of myself was the shame of it. And then, started dieting at like 14 or 15 years old, and it's never really stopped. Now it's a lifestyle, but then it was just like extreme, right? We would go on these yo-yo diets and extremes.
It's amazing how it does turn into a lifestyle.
It does. Yeah.
And, there's bumps in the road all the time.
Yeah.
But now it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And if we waver, we feel it, and then we're like back to the lifestyle.
And now, like, lifestyle for me is a non-negotiable, because I feel too damn good the way that I am right now, especially with going back on the new busy diet. In the last 6 weeks, lost 10 or 15 pounds. I feel amazing. Like, it's regained a confidence level for me that I didn't think I needed, but I didn't have. And now that I have it, it's like, holy shit, I'm here. Like, I'm not going anywhere with it, because it's simple. And I am very busy. So the busy diet is fitting for, someone that is busy.
Sure.
But my gut health, everything else, I just feel, so much better. So let's talk about training is the one thing that I think was always a consistent with us. So the Advantage Club, Aspen, all these places we have trained in 10 or 15, 20 gyms together for
all around
15 years plus. That was the one thing that never went away. Let's talk about, I remember you trained with Big Earl for a while. Like, we've both had ups and downs with our training, but it's never stopped.
No, it's just been different types of training.
Always. It's evolved a lot, though.
I've done, like you said, I trained with Earl, which that was a totally different from what we were used to. We used to do like lighter weight, high reps.
Right.
When I trained with Earl, holy shit, it was heavyweight, high reps.
Yeah.
It was like nonstop. And like, I remember we did the Arnold Olympia workout, and it would take me, I don't know how I had this much time, but it would take me twice a day, 3 hours each time.
Mm-hmm.
And I still couldn't get it all in.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest and strongest. I wouldn't say the strongest, but it was the biggest I've been. And I wouldn't say it was the healthiest because it was still bro diet.
Right.
It wasn't like, it wasn't a good, it was a diet, but it wasn't good for you.
The 5 for 5 Arby's after workouts.
No, it wasn't like that. I was eating like 5-pound tubs of cottage cheese like every other day, and chicken breast, like going to GFS and buying big bags of that twice a week and that kind of stuff.
Talk about what lifting has done not only for your confidence but for your mental strength, because you are the strongest mentally. You're the strongest person I've ever met as far as mentality goes.
Did you just tear up a little bit, bud?
No tears.
You look like you did.
No. I've never met a human that has the mental strength of you. But talk about how the weightlifting has built not only confidence for you, but that mental edge that a lot of people don't have.
So at a young age is where I got my mental toughness. Like I said, I grew up and I was in trouble all the time. And the one thing that I always remember is I was told that I was either going to be dead or in prison by 18.
Yeah.
Like, that's how crazy it was.
Yeah.
So I want to prove anybody and everybody wrong, because everybody said it, but both sides of the family.
But you really probably wanted to prove yourself wrong, because I was told by 21 I'd be dead or in jail.
Yeah, I want to prove everybody wrong and myself that I could do it.
Right.
And then, like, I don't know what it is that clicks in me. I can turn things off and on when I need to. But in lifting, I wanted to, in the same way I took that to work, I wanted to be stronger and I wanted to last longer. Like, when everybody else gets tired, that's when I want to start hitting, peaking. Like, I wanted to keep going. So for lifting, throughout the years, I've always kept that. And I've faltered, I've went through a bunch of shit that has like put a big hold in it. And it's probably been mentally the toughest thing I've ever had to go through, which I'm sure we'll get to, but I just couldn't turn it off as we were going. And lifting, like, you get tired, you get weak, like, there's times when you don't want to do it, and it's just doing it regardless.
So there's discipline in life. I wake up tired every day, right? But my tired is normal tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired from lack of sleep, from life, right?
Sure.
What you go through is so much more, and we'll dive into that. So discipline from a regular perspective is one thing that is to be admired, but discipline for you is different. Let's go back to, let's start in 2000, probably 11 or 12. On the weekends, we are working on the side for $11 an hour spreading mulch.
Oh, yeah.
And
forgot all about that.
I remember you bringing a wheelbarrow of mulch over, dumping it, or I brought it to you. I think I brought it to you, and you're spreading it out. And you said, "Man, switch me. I can't see very well. Like, I got this big hump right here. I just don't know what's going on. I can't see." So let's talk about spread mulch for $11 an hour, having trouble seeing, and what you found out not long after that.
So yeah, I do remember that, and I just shook it off because I was like, just, how medical things happen, or things happen to you, and it's like, it's just whatever, and you shake it off. So I remember a couple of days later, I was playing golf, and I know how the flight of my ball goes. So I was watching it, and as I hit it, I think it was a 7-iron. I hit it, and I was watching the flight. It comes down about 50, shakes. I saw a tracer. Another 50, shakes, saw a tracer, and I was like, you know, I worked for a welding company for a little bit. Maybe I got a piece of metal in my eye. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just go to an eye doctor. So I went to one right there on 21st Street. Went in, he's like, well, let's just take some pictures of it. And he brings me back, the owner was there, and he brings me back in his office, and he was shaking like weird. Yeah. And I was like, what's up, bud? And he was like, I just want to let you know, this is the biggest tumor I've ever seen in somebody's eye. Boom, over to Ohio State.
And it was within Saturday, Sunday, spread and mulch. The next weekend you were in Ohio State.
Yeah.
It was very, very quick.
Yeah, so basically, they started doing all these tests, and they sent me to a specialist. And then it was just, basically it was cancer, ocular melanoma, which is rare because normally it only happens in infants and like people like around late 60s, early 70s. And I had it, and it was the biggest one they've seen, and it was huge. So we went through a series of tests. They used to give me shots in my eyeball, which is a big needle, so you got to sit still.
So I actually was there when they did one of them. I remember when I got stuck in the elevator and the fire department had to come and all that.
Oh, yeah.
They did one that day because I remember walking in and they were getting ready to do it, and then they patched you back up after. It was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life until later, but...
Yeah, we did a series of shots, and that wasn't working. Then I had this surgery called radio plaque therapy, which they make a plaque out of gold, and they sew radiation beads into it. So they basically cut the muscles of your eye, pull it out, sew it onto it, put your eye back in, and you have to do 100 hours with that in there. And I was at the James Hospital. So
I think, I don't know how many times that came up then, but I remember you having this massive thing over your eye, and that's when it, like, I don't think I could be within like 10 feet of you or something. Is that right?
Yeah, because of the radiation.
Yeah.
They didn't want anybody around. So I basically laid there by myself with this on there. And that surgery, and I've had quite a few surgeries, different surgeries. I remember, like, I could feel him doing it. Because I guess with your redhead genes, like, with pain medication, stuff like that, like, it takes double or triple for me to what a normal person would take.
Right.
And I was like, Doc.
And you're a stubborn, dude anyway, so I'm sure it was.
My leg was coming off the table when they were cutting.
God, I can't imagine.
And I felt like I bent the bars on the table I was on. And I was like, Doc, I can feel it. And he said, there ain't no way you could feel this. And I was like, you just cut something right there. And he's like, uh-oh. And then I remember him like getting more and more and more until I couldn't feel it. Because you're wide awake while you're basically just.
So I had LASIK surgery done. So I know, like, when they burn the the outer ring of your eye, like, you're awake for that. I cannot even imagine, because that was like the most terrifying probably 30 seconds of my life, and I cannot even imagine what the hell you had to go through.
Yeah, so it was basically two of them. They take it out, and then they have to take the plaque back off, and then you can't lift anything over 5 pounds because they don't want it to explode, because pressure, like you can feel it in your eyes when you're lifting and stuff like that. So I had that one. You want me to go through them all, or you just want me to keep rolling?
Yeah, keep rolling.
So I had that, and I still had a little bit of eyesight left, and chilled, but I had to go through like 3-month checkups. And then, like, I was about to get cleared to just come in once a year. And then we did a full body scan, head to toe. And they're like, it metastasized. So that means it went everywhere. So they found it in my liver. So that's pretty scary, because the specialist there said, sometimes your whole liver's peppered. If it is, that's you better.
I remember you calling me,
like, tell everybody goodbye and all that stuff.
And you said there's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
So, I'll never forget that phone call.
Yeah, I made a couple tough ones, man.
Yeah. So let's go real deep and to a very difficult part of this conversation, probably maybe more difficult for me, but obviously very difficult for you as well. So New Albany Roosters, I had already known about the liver.
Mm-hmm.
We're sending New Albany Roosters, and you're telling everybody, and I got that phone call.
Yeah.
So that day, you had just told everyone that you have to get this liver procedure, and I knew about it before, but we had Zach and John, 10, 15 guys there or whatever. And I get the call that Mason passed away. And I remember, I don't know what the expression was on my face. I remember panicking.
You went white.
And you looked at me and said, "What happened?" I told you what happened. And I was trying to cash out. And you're like, "Dude, I got it. Just get the heck out of here."
Yeah.
And so that day changed my life forever, as you've had multiple days that change yours. So whether you can relate in a similar fashion or not, you've had some really bad days with everything you went through. Horrible, horrible days.
A few.
Your mentality going into that was very, very strong. And it has maintained the strength throughout. I don't know how. I don't know how you've held it together as well as you have. Mentally, though, you have not wavered from who you are with all the challenges that you've been through. And you've had all these bad days. I've had one really bad day. As far as for me, me personally, that was my bad day. Every day since that day has been good. Every time that you call me and tell me, I got to go through this again, I got to go through that again, I always have admired your strength to look at the positive of it. And I think that you, of all people, understand that every day is precious, right? Every day that we are here is a blessing. So we have to make it the best of it.
Sure.
Tomorrow
Absolutely.
isn't promised for anybody, but you've had a lot of bad days that are really bad days. And a lot of people have not had them bad days.
Right.
So you truly appreciate every day that you get another chance to wake up and go do what you love to do, right? And every time that you call and tell me you got the liver, right? The day that we had Mason's funeral was the day you had your liver surgery. I'll never forget that day either. And then after that, you probably had 2 or 3 years, and then it came back again.
A year and a half. I'm really bad at dates.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe another year or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. So probably 2019 time frame, roughly, because 2017 was that time. So probably roughly 2019, 2018. So the last 4 years, since the liver, you've had 2 brain operations.
I've had 2 craniotomies, multiple radiation treatments on my brain. So I think I have 12 to 15 tumors on my brain still to this day.
So for everyone listening, whenever you have a bad day, really evaluate your life, right? Because what you have been through is absolute hell. And I've seen it from 1,000 feet away.
Yep.
I've seen post-operation what you look like. I could feel the pain looking at your face. And I've never seen you really be in pain, but I remember after that first brain surgery, when I walked in the room, you just did this, and you hurt too bad to cry. I remember seeing your face. It was unbelievable, the look.
Yeah.
But you didn't waver from who you are, and you never have.
You can't. The way I always pictured it is, so I was supposed to be in there 3 to 5 days. I wasn't supposed to get out of my hospital stuff for like 3 days or whatever. I changed out all my shit, put my regular clothes on, was reading a book or doing something. Were you there when the doc walked in? He's like, the surgeon walked in. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What the fuck do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I figured you'd still be laid up." And I was like, "Why? Like, why am I doing that? I don't need to be laid up. I don't feel like I need to be laid up. I want to keep pressing on." Like, that was always my view. So what I would do is walk the hallways and read a book. And I saw people that had the same shit as me, and they looked like fucking death.
Yep.
And I remember I felt so bad that I just stayed in my room and read. Like, I didn't want to.
I remember like the nurses seeing you walking down, I think, because I stayed with Dom, your son Dom. I stayed with him the night or I think the day of the surgery and that night, whatever, and we came back the next day. And we showed up, and I remember Libby was in with you, and only one of me or Dom could go in. Obviously, Dom went in. And then I see you walking down the hallway, bare ass hanging out, like just walking with a walker down the hallway after this brain surgery. And I'm just like, huh, there's Trager. But you were not going to be told that you couldn't do anything. And you never have your whole life, right?
Pretty much.
We have done a lot of things that have not been good for our wellness. But in general, we have always taken care of ourselves to some degree,
right,
or been cognizant of that. So with your experience, you know that you built a foundation with iron that calloused you to some degree, physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
Right? Talk about the difference in the people that didn't, that you've seen. Because you've seen people that probably had the same situation as you did, and it killed them instantly.
Well, that comes down to the mental toughness too. You know, some people just give up. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't, like I said earlier, like I can turn things on and off. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that I never dwelled on anything that I ever had done to me, and I still don't. Like, I don't think about it. All I do is think about there are people worse than me, which I've told you many times. That's why I didn't want to do this podcast forever, because I don't, in my eyes, I'm not doing anything special.
Right.
Like, but
you are though. We'll get to that in a minute, but keep going.
So I think that a lot of people that have that just roll over and just take it. So I don't think that they know that they have an option, or they don't want to give themselves an option, mm-hmm. which you could walk. You could walk around a neighborhood. You could pretty much do anything. You know what I mean? It's whether or not you want to give yourself that option. Mm-hmm. And they know they have that, but they don't want to realize that.
So you had a pulse and you could stand up.
Yeah.
So you had a chance, and that's all you needed.
Right. That's all I needed.
And you're still getting up every day. You're still getting after it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day, your fight is so much different than what anyone else that isn't been through what you've been through. No one understands what you've been through, only you, and anyone that's been in a similar situation. But let's talk about the reality of it, just so people understand what all you've been through. So you've had the eye
which now I can't see out of.
Right.
It's the right eye.
You had the liver,
brain radiations,
two brain surgeries, right?
And I was on treatments for
right.
2 years and 11 months,
right.
And I just got off those maybe 3 months ago.
So I remember sitting down one afternoon on a Friday, and you were expecting bad news. And I don't know if you remember exactly what I'm talking about. This was a few years ago.
The Roosters?
Yeah.
Corner table?
Yeah. And you were waiting on a call from the doctor. You were expecting bad news, and then you got good news. You had, at that point, you got a call, and I think it was you could see your treatment after your next one, and you were good for 6 months, something of that nature. And I don't remember the detail, but you had good news in comparison to what you thought was going to be like horrible news.
Yep. And
you seen it was like an uplifting energy spike for you at that moment, because I remember the first thing you said, I can't wait to get trained again. I'm going to start CrossFit again.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you're passionate about, right?
Yep.
You love to do it. So I want to shift into what your state is as far as, like, what stage of cancer are you in?
I'm still stage 4.
And how long has that been?
7 years.
What does the doctor or nurse tell you every time you go in there?
I'm doing great. So I can back this up a little bit just to show you like the intensity of it. When it metastasizes and goes everywhere, and Libby didn't tell me this for a while, but it's normally people have 2.5 years gone. And that's been 5.5 for me now. And when I first started treatments, they give you a double dose. They give you 2 medicines. It's called Ipi and Nevo. Normally people don't make it. You have to take 4 doses. And normally people don't make it past 3 or to 3 or something like that. I made it through all 4. Did I feel like death? Did I look like death? I did. Like there were times during that where, even though the mental toughness, you're like, Jesus Christ, you know, like a bullet tastes better than this sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, so you have that as with, you know, with that. So it's hard for me to explain because a lot of people don't have that to work with, you know, like for me to relay that to you. And I think this is actually the first time we've ever really delved into it. I forgot the question, bud.
Well,
sorry.
Like the true like severity of your situation. So I want everyone to understand in a minute what you do on a daily basis now, but I want them to understand the unlikelihood that you were alive, and stage 4 cancer, 5.5 years, right?
Yeah, in my realm that I know, it's very unlikely that I'm still here.
Stats say 2 years, 2.5 years, you're gonna survive.
Supposedly, yeah, that's what I was told.
Majority of the time, you've referenced that every time you see a nurse, they've told you should have been dead 5 years ago, right? I've heard you say something in that realm a couple of times. You have overcame a 1% of 1% of odds, and you're still focused on your wellness, right? You're still thinking about
absolutely.
You went to CrossFit this morning, right?
Yeah, I feel amazing when I go in the mornings. Now,
So
it's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard as fuck, but I have to do it.
So the discipline that you have is going to be superior to 99% of disciplined people, because 99% of disciplined people, probably higher than that, are not going through the same battles that you are. So from one brother to another, I've seen you when you're healthy before all this, and I've seen you now, and it's been an obvious challenge, but your mentality has not wavered. And for anyone out there that has a challenge in life, this is a good like thing to think about. But for someone that has been through hell, this is a prime example that you can do it. Because Corey talks about not doing anything special, he just doesn't miss, right? Mm-hmm. You have came out of the worst situation and still refused to miss. Not because you wanted to, because you felt obligated to for you. Yeah. To be better for yourself, right?
Yep. Family, myself,
everything.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting that release, that therapeutic time under the bar, like, you're not going to be your best self. And you still make your wellness a priority through everything that you've been through in your current like health situation. You still make wellness a priority. And look at what you're doing because of it.
It took me a while to get there. Like, I'm not going to say, like, there's plenty of dark days. Like, there are some really, really fucking dark days. So I'm not saying that
There was times you physically couldn't get out of bed.
Oh, yeah. There were times.
So or you had seizures. I mean, you've had multiple seizures. You've had a lot of different things happen, right?
Like, there's times where you can't.
It's very, very ugly.
Yeah.
Like, there hasn't been much detail that we went into, but it's been very ugly.
It's had some really, really fucking dark days.
Right. But you still overcame them dark days.
It's a fight. It is a fight. But you can do it. People can do it.
Yes.
It took me, and I'm still like nowhere near the strength I used to be. Like, you know, I had another trainer in a bro gym, and that just wasn't doing it for me, which I sent you that, you know. Mm-hmm. And then I fell off for a little bit, and then.
But by falling off, you know, you say falling off, I say you were physically not able to get out of bed for 3 or 4 weeks straight. You're puking. You're taking these steroid shots that made you gain. I remember the one time I seen you gained 40 pounds in like 3 weeks because of a shot for treatment, right?
Well, it was the pills I had to take.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really, you can call it falling off. That's fine. But the adversity that you had to go through because of your situation, like, falling off is one thing because of laziness, you know, from majority of society.
Right.
But you fell off because you physically couldn't stand up.
Mm-hmm.
You physically couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah, there were days.
I mean, it was
a long time. Yeah, it was. And you know, I will have to give credit to Libby because she didn't. I told her never to baby me. Don't cry in front of me because I don't want to see you hurt. Like, that was probably a dickhead move, but I was like, I don't want to see you guys hurt. I don't want to see me cause you guys that pain. But she never treated me with kid gloves. She took care of me, but she never babied me. And I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, like 100%. Doing all the research, getting into all these groups to find out who's the best doctor and all this shit. Like, so there's a lot of strength that I have through her.
Right. And she's a pit bull too, so she's not letting any doctor give any help.
She is a fucking pit bull. Yeah. And you know, so there's a lot of times where you want to give up. And if anybody ever thinks they want to give up, you're going to have that thought. But when you have a chance to get up and move. Yeah. Don't lay there.
And I think you've referenced it to some degree, and that's pretty much what you said. Right when you really thought about quitting, you just got up and moved. Yeah. That way, your mind would think about something else right away. Because if you thought about it too long, you might not get up. Right?
Yeah.
If you sit there and process that for so long, eventually you're just going to talk yourself into sitting there. Yeah. Right? And then you always talk about, yeah, man, the other day was really tough. Like, I was on the edge, ready to just say, screw it, this ain't worth it anymore. And I just got up, started moving, went out, cleaned the garage, went and did whatever. And it's a light distraction, but it really just kind of bypasses that thought process into going to, the full commitment to quitting. Yeah. So everything that you have been through speaks volumes for itself. I have never heard of someone. I've talked to 5 or 10 people that have had some sort of cancer, medical issues, but no one even remotely close to what you've been through and came out of it the way that you have. So let's shift this to the industry that we're in.
Sure.
So we're still in blue collar nation.
Yep. Still doing pipeline.
The pipeline world for us is a natural thing, just like the weightlifting is, right? It's one thing that the iron really built the foundation for the career path, really. But now they're tied together. Like, we got to have the other one to support. They got to support each other. One feeds the other, and vice versa. And this podcast is all about the iron game and the infrastructure sector. So let's talk about the industry and how unhealthy it is, and how if Jeremy Trager of all people can be healthy in this industry with his medical conditions and his history, everyone should take a look at what they're doing and the choices that they're making. Because if you have any chance of feeling good with the decisions you make, just imagine what people can do with the simple things. Yeah. The jug of water. We talked about it earlier.
Everywhere.
Right? We've been drinking aminos for 10 or 15 years. We've carried a gallon jug around forever. That is such a seemingly small task or small thing, but it can absolutely be detrimental to your health if you don't have it.
Yeah, and you never really know that until you start drinking 1 to 2 gallons a day, which I try to do every day.
Right.
And then you don't do it, you feel like fucking dog shit.
So the best way that I can relate or get people to relate to it is run a piece of equipment. What happens to a piece of equipment if you don't put grease in it? Squeaky wheel, right?
Yeah,
like it doesn't move right. It's going to probably break. Something's going to happen to it because you're not hydrated. You're not greased up. For me, that's a simple, way to look at it, where stepping out of a track hoe, stepping into a ditch, stepping in the back of the panel, getting into your truck. How many guys have had a lower back injury pulling themselves up in the truck? I mean, it's something I've seen a dozen times.
Yeah.
All that could probably be prevented by a gallon of water a day and some simple stretches every morning.
Yeah.
We're talking about minute things. We're not talking about the 0.001% Jeremy Trager and what he does. We're talking about the simple things. So I still don't understand why people were so reluctant to change. But creating awareness for that is what this is all about.
I mean, it's been in our industry forever. Beers and shitty food, not taking care of yourself.
Right.
And I don't think and I'm on the corporate side now versus, the R&R side. And guys are still pretty much the same way. Now there's a handful of guys now that I know that take care of themselves better, and it's good to see. But still the majority have got the same thing. But as far as like the industry and all that stuff, like it's just it keeps changing. Sometimes not for the better when it comes to the health and it comes to the work and everything else like that. So many things that I've seen for 20 years that I've been doing it is the brotherhood's not there. The trust isn't there. The work's still the same. That hasn't gone away.
Right.
But it's just not anywhere near what it used to be.
I don't know if you've recognized this or seen this any, or if this is just a individual, like one-off for me, but there used to be a huge separation between field and office, right? So, you know, the people in the field, you know, doing all the work, the office, huge separation. Now, maybe this is because I'm on the office side now and I've lost touch with reality. I don't feel that way, but maybe it is to some degree. Or it's one-off because of the culture that we've created at R&R. But there's so much pride in the old school Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you done something and then someone else took credit for it? It used to be common for me to present, you know, a solution for a problem, and then the person I presented to literally took what I put together and presented it to the client as their solution.
In the field, it's still the same.
So I don't think it's an industry thing. I think it might be just more like for us, or, you know, mentality that I've developed over time, because it's my success is not about me. It's about everyone else, right?
It has to be. That's
So
where you're at. Yeah,
my biggest goal in life is just to provide value for other people, and the success will follow. Yeah. And it's not like I open my door and shut your door, right? If there's an opportunity, I want to open my door and I want to open your door, and anyone else that's on the team, I want to open their door.
Well, you've been a grunt, and you spent a good amount of time there, so you know what it feels like. You know, I'm still out in the field, so I'm still in ditches every day. Now, where I'm at, which I'm not going to say, the transparency is not there. And I know you talked about transparency at where you're at, and you know, it feels like a lot of lies. It doesn't feel like the truth is there, and like that open and closed door is a lot. Yeah. And like I don't give a shit if somebody else wants to take credit for what I've done. I'm consistent. I'll do the same thing. You'll find out sooner or later. My work ethic is not going to stop. So if they want to take credit for whatever, that's fine by me. I don't care.
And I was referencing more like the culture of, like, I think people are so worried about losing their job, they're scared that they're going to be replaced because they're not working hard enough.
Well, I always tell my bosses my 50% is everybody else's 100%. And that's true because they get scared of the work. They give you, like with the safety culture we have, that can give you every excuse not to do the job. But if you actually look at the fucking job, you can do it. You have all the tools to do it. Like it's there for the taking. Right. You just got to do it.
And I'm 1000% bought into a safety culture, but it is used as a way to get out of work.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because at the drop of a hat, you'll get, you know, terminated for the right reason if you do something wrong. Like if you do something wrong, you'll get terminated for it, right? Which is a lot of decision making. A lot of people can use that in a way to not get to that point, so they don't have to do something, make a decision, or have that tough decision to make. Because what the industry is dangerous. You got to understand it, and we
used to do shit. We shouldn't even be here for some of the shit
we
did
back
in the day.
Yeah.
Like, so when it comes down to like when the guys get trained now, when they come in, they're scared shitless to make a decision. Right. And they've bred them that way.
And so that's why they're not comfortable with it.
Yeah, they're not comfortable with making a decision and following through.
Yes.
And that's what I've seen, which is really fucking horrible.
The training should make you comfortable in doing the work. You should be comfortable doing the work, but never get complacent. Complacency is the big thing that gets people in trouble. When people become complacent, they don't respect it anymore. What we do, you have to respect. The day that you lose respect for it is the day something happens. And every time that I've lost respect,
you don't fear the gas, you're going to fuck somebody up or you're going to fuck yourself
every time that I did not respect the situation, I got burnt.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes literally.
It's still the same. That's never going to go away.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think the big wellness or illness topic, you were forced into focusing on your illness, but your wellness is the reason that you're thriving in life despite of your illness. Your illness was not a side effect of your lack of wellness. A lot of people have illness issues, they just aren't aware of it yet because it hasn't hit them, right? Because they don't focus on their wellness, because this extra 20 pounds that I put on this year isn't a priority to get rid of, because of this extra thing here. Oh, I got, high blood pressure, I'm just going to take this medication. Borderline diabetic, right? The diabetic and the high blood pressure thing it's more common to probably have them two things in our industry than it's not, I would say, for majority of people that have been in here for a while.
Drink full test Mountain Dew and eat fucking couch pizza every day, you're going to fucking have that. You can make a better decision. Like, even though you go to a gas station and eat, there are fucking better decisions. We've lived off of it.
Yes.
Like, grab a protein bar. They might not be the best.
Yes.
Grab something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of grabbing like a fucking soda, grab a water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just, the hydration alone is one thing.
That
right?
is 100% crucial.
100%.
If you can't afford to buy the aminos, just drink water.
Well, if you can't afford to buy the aminos, don't tell me you can afford to buy Mountain Dew every day.
Right.
Right. Because I guarantee you that a bag of aminos in a month is going to be a lot cheaper than what a Mountain Dew would be for a week.
Yeah, just say you stop twice a day. That's 2 sodas, so that's $4 a day. Times that by a month. You've already bought 2 bags of
So
aminos.
just even something as simple as buying a case of water or buying a gallon of water, that jug cost $30 probably. Whenever I bought it 5 or 6 years ago, that thing is beat up.
Oh yeah,
it's been ran over by a dozer. I've had it buried a couple times, and I pull it out of the boneyard and still use it. I mean, that thing's paid for itself 1,000 times over.
It's the small things that people just take the time to look at them.
I still pack a lunch. I literally still pack a lunch every day.
Same.
And that's something that I'll never quit doing. For one, I'm always wanting to be prepared because I don't want to be forced to.
Because we worked in the fucking field,
right?
You always think
prepared.
Twice.
Yeah. If I'm not prepared, then I'm prepared to fail. So focusing on wellness for us has always been something. I think the iron has built such a foundation that my discipline's at an all-time high right now. Your discipline is at such an elite level for your circumstance that I don't ever want to hear excuses from anybody that they can't do something. And that's really what I want to close up with this message is nobody can give an excuse to you about anything in life. And if they do, they're probably going to get a left hook across the mouth, or should. Because what you have done and overcame, I would match against anything that anyone has had to deal with. Tenfold, I cannot think of anyone that had any adversity in their life that even comes remotely close to the first year of what you went through after spreading the mulch that day, let alone the journey after that. So if anybody can give excuses or will give excuses or are willing to, they should really listen to this episode. They should really think about what you've overcame and still made a priority, and how then people making excuses are probably not living life as much as you are. You're probably more alive than a lot of people in the world today, despite your circumstances. Your adversity in life has been a catapult for opportunity to help others, even though you're reluctant to do so, because you think your story's not great, right? But it is. And like I told you last time, I wanted you to come on here first because you're my best friend, you're my brother. We've been through the literal trenches for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have never seen someone have to deal with what you have. And to overcome that, to spread that message, I really think that this can provide opportunity for hope for a lot of people that are ready to quit, that are not ready to get up off that couch and move a little bit. I truly believe it.
I hope it reaches people for that, because that's why I'm here.
And that's what, I mean, you're going to be on again. We're going to talk about this again. You're not getting off that easy, just only being on here once. But to have the adversity that you've had in your life, right, is one thing. To overcome all that, it absolutely is commendable. But for you to come on here and talk about it and to help provide hope to other people that are ready to quit, this was a challenge today in itself, and I know it was. And you came on here because it wasn't about you. Whether you were comfortable or not, couldn't tell. And you did what Jeremy Trager does.
Appreciate that.
You killed it. And for everyone listening, I just have to say this again. 4 or 5 cancer surgeries, an eye, a liver, 2 brains. And you didn't have a lot of brain to work with before.
No. Now I got metal plates to bounce air off of.
Your head is full of metal. You got a roadmap of scars all over the place. And he got out of bed at 4:30 this morning and did CrossFit. I don't want to hear any damn excuses from anybody else. That's the closing message. Get your ass out of bed, take care of yourself. Because if he can do it, anybody else can do it.
Appreciate all the kind words, boss.
Iron Infrastructure Podcast, we're out. This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose, enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. This episode is brought to you by Corey G Fitness. Go to CoreyGFitness.com for all your training, nutrition needs, personal development, enhanced lifestyle. CoreyGFitness.com. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to MaxEffortMuscle.com.